Virginia Department of Corrections, Red Onion State Prison. To accept this call, press 0.
This is Randall Via, currently serving 1,214 years for capital murder in Red Onion State Prison in Pound, Virginia in the USA. Welcome to my podcast, Red Onion Randy. I hope you enjoy listening to me today. Today, I'm going to talk about that bitch Tom. She's a cruel mistress, and we all hate her, but we're all addicted to her inside of prison. And time takes many different forms. The first and the most obvious reference of time behind these walls is how much time do you have? Meaning, how much prison time are you serving? How many years do you have? And that's something that everybody in here has to deal with. Everybody in here has to answer, because every single time you meet someone new, very first question they ask you, most part behind what they call you, bro, is, hey man, how much time you got? Because the amount of time a person has is indicative of social status in here. Because the guys who have life sentences, they're sort of looked at like the OGs. Like, yo man, what the you do to get life in prison? Or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 life sentences. Like, I have 2 life sentences. I've known several guys in here who have like 7 or 8 life sentences. And it's freaking crazy. But, so like, there's a status symbol that goes along with how much time you have. Time, it weighs on you. Now, time is different depending on what prison you're in. It's like if you're at a level 1 or level 2 road camp, time goes by a whole lot faster, because the level 1 and level 2 road camps, you have to have a job at a road camp and you have to work, whether it's inside the prison or it's on a chain gang. And the chain gang is the prisoners you see out there cleaning up the side of the roads, working in the field, doing stuff like that. So because they have full-time jobs where they're working 10, 11, 12 hours a day every single day, time goes by a whole lot faster because you're occupied. Your time is occupied with doing something. Now, if you're in a level 6 supermax prison like I am, I'm still at a level 6 technically speaking, even though on the pod I'm in is considered a level 5, but I spent 13 and a half years straight in solitary confinement, minus 3 weeks around the 6.5 year mark, because I got released for 3 weeks before I was locked up without a charge for an additional 7 years. That time went by so freaking slow. Like, I mean, it almost feels like someone just took a rake and just glued razor blades to it and just started to slowly run it down your back, like thick molasses dripping. It's painful. Like, I mean, you wouldn't think that time could be a torture technique. My God, it freaking is torture to get trapped back there in solitary confinement, having to deal with time. And for the overwhelming majority of my bid, I did not have a television. I did not have a JP5 player. I did not have books. I would only get 2 library books every 2 weeks. And I can read a 1,000-page book in a day easily. I actually had to train myself to stop doing that, because I would get my library books and that, we would get them on Wednesday, and by Thursday night, I was done with my books. And then I would have to spend 12 days with nothing to read, unless, I just choose to reread the same books over and over again, which most times I actually did wind up doing that because, I had no choice, or, I would just pace the floor and daydream. But it drags by, and time is what breaks you back there. It's loneliness. I mean, there's not being able to really communicate with no one, not being able to see out the cell, not being able to really talk to people or, engage in social interaction. Like that, all that stuff plays its part. But I honestly think time is what hurts people the most in solitary confinement and in prison, because all you're doing is waiting for this time to be over. And even out there on the street, we've all heard people say, and we've all experienced it, like when you're waiting for something, especially when it's something you're anticipating a lot, like being released from solitary confinement or being released from prison, or you're waiting for the new library books to come, or you're waiting for commissary to come. Like when you're waiting for stuff and you look at the time, you look at the watch, you look at the little alarm clock or whatever, you know, you're constantly jumping up on the sink asking the dude next door, hey man, what time is it, man? It slows to a crawl, and it just drags by. Like, how in the hell does 1 minute turn into an hour? Like, it literally, it goes from 60 minutes an hour to 60 hours an hour. But, I mean, you know, it's something you have no choice but to deal with. And how you deal with it, it determines how crazy, you know, how insane you're going to be by the time you leave solitary confinement. Especially back in the day when any charge, no matter what the charge, like, you got two different types of charges in prison. You got a 100 series charge and you got a 200 series charge. Now, the 100 series charge is your escapes, your escape attempts, your murder attempts, your rapes, your sexual misconducts, and gunning, and having drugs or a weapon or stuff like that. And then you have your little 200 series charges, which is, let's say you got your light covered because it's freaking driving you nuts, and so you cover it up, and the CO comes by and tells you, hey, man, you got to uncover your light. And you're like, no, I ain't doing that, man. Screw that, man. My eyes hurt. And your eyes hurt with the fluorescent lights, with the white paint. And see, that's what, it's not the fluorescent light so much to get you. It's the white paint. It's that fluorescent light bouncing off of that white paint, and it gives you snow blindness. Damn near every single person here at Red Onion State Prison has to wear glasses because it destroys our eyesight. Damn it, I done lost my train of thought. Sorry, people. So when you're stuck back there and you're having to deal with these things, and you get that little 200 series charge, well, guess what? They will lock you up on a 200 series charge for 3 or 4 years, just for a small petty charge. Like that at others, you know, like at Lowlands, if you would have got a 200 series charge, you'd have done around 30 days in the hole. But up here at Red Onion, you would have did years in the hole for that exact same charge that you would have done somewhere else for. So that's where time it kills you, because you're constantly waiting for something. You're constantly waiting for a change, because every single day just bleeds into one day after the other. It's always the same. There's rarely ever anything new. If y'all was able to ask Assistant Warden Fuller here at Red Onion, every single time I see that man, I don't ask him how he's doing. I don't say, hey, how's your family, or what. I don't ask that. I'll ask one question, and one question only. Dude, man, we gonna get anything new? Because in prison we live for anything new. Because you're trapped in time. You're trapped in the same minute over and over and over again, day in and day out, doing the same thing over and over again. That's why I've said I cannot go home and get a regular 9-to-5 job where I do the same thing 5 days a week. It would kill me. I would blow my damn brains out. Because I'm so sick of time. I hate time. But yet I'm so addicted to time. You know, I'm constantly looking at my watch. My day is scheduled by time. Our schedule in here right now is a little messed up due to COVID and everything, but my normal schedule is after breakfast now, I go back to sleep until around 9 o'clock. I don't come out for pod rec in the morning. So 9 o'clock, I get up, I fix me a hot cup of coffee, I'll eat my breakfast, and then I'll spend somewhere around 40 minutes to an hour, I'll do my prayers. Then 11 o'clock, they'll feed us, I'll eat lunch. And then at 12:10, I have my alarm goes off at 10 minutes after 12. And that's when I'll get up and I'll fix me another hot cup of coffee. And then from 12:20 to 12:50, I do my Bible study and I drink me another hot cup of coffee. And then after that, I'll do some writing or I'll do some reading or whatnot, and then waiting for us to come out for pod rec in the afternoon, and then dinner, and then 5 o'clock, I'll work out. And then hopefully on night shift, we'll get pod rec so I can come out and take a shower and maybe grab a phone call, call Michael or John or somebody that I talk to. And then 12 o'clock, I go back to sleep. Like, my day is scheduled by time. Everybody in here has a schedule. Everybody in here has that time where they do certain things every single day. So you're not only imprisoned by the court system and the police officers, you're also imprisoned by time within your prison sentence, because everything in here has to do with time. So you have to find those things. Like me, I've said this before and I'll continue to say it. I absolutely love to think of new fantasy stories, to think of new magical potions to go inside my stories, new magic weapons or new magic items, or I'm constantly trying to come up with new ways of using magic within, my stories. I'm always daydreaming about my future. I'm always thinking about, what am I going to do when God gives me his favor and gets me out of prison? What am I going to do with my time out there? Like, how am I going to utilize my time? Am I going to have enough time to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish? How long is it going to take me to accomplish these things? So time is probably your most prevalent aspect of being incarcerated, because your time is the one thing you have no choice over. You have no power over time. You have to do your time. We actually have a saying in here: do your time and don't let time do you. Now, what that means is a person who lets time do them is somebody that just gets up and goes through the day without any direction, without any plan, without anything constructive. So when a person who actually does their time, those are the ones who picks up books and read. They're the ones who go to school and they try to educate themselves. They try to learn everything they can learn. They're out there, they're working out, they're doing crafts, they're teaching themselves how to draw, they're writing novels, they're coming up with business plans for when they get out of prison. They're taking the correspondence courses from different churches, or if they got the money and they can afford it, they're taking correspondence courses from, local colleges and stuff like that. They're doing the programs like anger management, AA, and stuff of that nature. Like, that's how you do your time. You fill your time behind these walls with something constructive. That's why I write. That's why I have a children's novel called Elise in the Magic Well on the Amazon Kindle platform. I'm in the process of hopefully getting another children's story that I wrote, The Adventure of Patches and Hissy. So illustrated and actually published this time, like through an actual publishing house. Thankfully, I have some really good friends that are helping me with that. I'm in the middle of working on a legitimate, actual fantasy novel, like a full length. It actually probably going to turn into probably 3 novels, hopefully a trilogy. That's what I'm kind of shooting for lengthwise. But I'm doing these things. I'm working on a movie script called Clear Conscience, just because, one, it fills my time up with something, and it helps my time to go by faster, because I've been there to where I've had to do time 1 hour every minute, and that's a killer. You know, I mean, that will freaking drive you up the wall. It will literally drive you insane. It will break your mental capacity. It will break your ability to think. It will break your ability to deal with your emotions in and just even a decent way, not even a healthy way. So as y'all know out there on the street, just y'all understand this, maybe not to the extent that you have to deal with it in prison, because as I've said before, prison is an emotional pressure cooker. Everything in here is dialed up by 1,000. Like, I mean, you have no choice but to deal with this stuff, because if you don't deal with it, it's going to break you. It's going to destroy you. You're going to be throwing feces all over the wall and smearing it around and jumping up and down and banging off the walls and screaming and cussing and kicking and cutting yourself. Like, there's a dude in the pod with me now. I saw his wrist. That dude has over, I would guesstimate, at least 70 slices across his wrist with a razor blade. Like, his wrist, from the top of his hand, about maybe 4...
You have 1 minute remaining.
About 4 inches up his arm is just nothing but a mass of scar tissue. Like, it's just, I'm not even sure how he bends his wrist to so much scar tissue. But that's what time will do in here if you don't learn how to control your own time. But unfortunately, my time is up. I hope you enjoyed listening to me today. For those of you who listen to me on Apple Podcasts, I would appreciate it if you would review me and rate me, preferably 5 stars, but I'll take whatever you think I'm worth. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you for using GTL.